Hi, this is Paul Solt from iPhone Dev TV. And now I'm going to show you how to use this reusable component within code. And so we're going to have to do something a little bit different. In our view controller class, let's go ahead and see what happens. I'm going to delete the did receive memory warning, and we'll just put some code in here. And our view did load. So you can clear out some of that default text. And we're going to import the slider view. So let's say we want to design the interface in code, maybe using auto layout, maybe not, and we just want to place some things. So the first thing that I like to do is I just like to create a view. And I'm used to creating a UIView controller without having to do a whole lot of work. And so that's the kind of experience I'm kind of expecting with this slider view. I know the slider view is a custom widget or something, a UIView that I've created, and I want it to size itself. I don't want to specify any of that stuff. So I'm going to assume that I do not need to size it, and we'll just call it a slider view. And here I will say slider view alloc init. And instead of doing init with frame, we're just going to do init. This is how I create my view controllers. I just sort of expect them to work. And since I've sort of designed them to be pixel perfect, that's what I'm expecting from this sort of experience. So here I would say self.view, and now we're in the view controller. So we have this view attribute that we add everything to. So here we would add our slider view with the add subview. And with that, we would expect to see something. So let's see what happens. All right, I don't see anything on the screen. So the first thing that I do when I'm debugging any kind of view code is I always set the background color. So we can set this programmatically to maybe purple or blue. Let's go blue. And rerun and see if we see anything, and we don't see anything. So the first indication here is that since we didn't do init with frame, it has a 0 frame. But I really want this component to load from the XIB file. So let's jump into our slider view and see if this code right here is running, and then what we see inside of it. All right, so it is running our init with frame. That is the default constructor or init method for a UIView subclass. And when we look at our frame, if we can hover over this, it should show me some info. Here we go. On the frame, we can see a preview, I think, if I click this. All right, so it can't load anything probably because it doesn't have anything. And if we go into this view, we don't see anything. So that's interesting. If I step, maybe we'll see something. Looks pretty much like 0. So we could print this out and we would see that it's a 0 size frame because we didn't pass anything in. And what we really want to do here is we want to load from the XIB file, and we want the XIB file to drive the sizing. We're going to have to adjust the bounds because that won't be set properly. And then the last thing that we'll do is we'll add it as a subview. Now, the order that we do these things is actually important. We want to make sure we adjust the bounds before we add it as a subview. I've had results where it behaves differently on object placement depending on how we do this. So let's go ahead, and we already have set up our interface file, so I don't need to do anything extra. If you didn't catch that, watch the first video, and here we'll just load a nib name. That's going to be our interface file. So this is a slider view, and our owner is going to be self, and then options I'll just pass in nil. So that's going to load up our view, and we have this property on this particular view. So if I switch into the .m file using the Control Command up arrow shortcut that lets me switch between them, we can see that I have a view outlet within inside of my view, much like a UIView controller, except we need to now add this self.view to our self. So we are a UIView, so we can add another view to ourself. So we say self add subview, and I'm actually doing that a step before I want to, and I'll just show you what happens. Self.view, and all right, we have our breakpoint, so I'm going to get rid of it, just drag it away, hit resume. Okay, so now we see that the view appears right here, and what we'll notice, and this is why I wanted to have a button, is that this one's not interactive. And the reason it's not interactive is because the frame size is incorrect. So let's actually print that out just to show you how you would debug something like this. So let's just print out the frame, and we'll do a ns string from cgrect. This is a great method to learn anytime you do custom work like this. And here we can just say self.frame. And we see that it's 0, 0. Now, if I switch this to self.view.frame or bounds, we probably will see something different. So here we see some information here. And what I'm really interested in is the bounds, which should give me the same information. But the bounds don't specify the XY coordinate, and that's kind of what we want to set for our thing. We don't want to actually set the frame because that's going to override the actual placement of the object when I want to control where it places. So here we will say self.bounds is going to equal self.view.bounds. So the view.bounds is what's being loaded from that XIB file that we created. And so if we go ahead and do this, we now see it's where it should be. And this is not interactive yet just because it's right off screen. It's underneath the status bar. So I can't click on that yet. So you can see I'm clicking here, nothing's happening. So the other thing that we didn't do when we created it was we didn't actually give it a position. So it's at 0, 0. So what we need to do is adjust our position to be where we want it to be. So here we can say slider view dot center is equal to CG point make, and then I can just give it 100, 100, and hopefully that goes where we want it. So you'd normally have to do some math based on the width, and we can see that this is working again. So without setting the bounds, we will not be able to interact with it. And again, you can't click on stuff above on the status bar. So that's placing it programmatically. It's not quite in a great position. So let's move it down to 300 so that it's not overlapping. And so this is a programmatic component that we have added ourselves, and we haven't given it any auto layout stuff. So in the next video, I will go into setting that up.